Hello students, this is your English lesson. Today we will read unit number 11, The Long Exile from Oxford Reading Circle Book 7. So we start our lesson. This is page number 100 from your book. In the town of Vladimir lived a young merchant named Ivan Dmitrich Oksinovo. He had two shops and a house of his own. He was a handsome, fair-haired, curly-headed fellow, full of bonhomie, cheerful friend lines, very fond of singing. One summer, Oksinovo was going to the Nizhny Fair. And as he bade goodbye to his family, his wife said to him, Ivan Dmitrich, do not start today. I have had a bad dream about you. I do not know what I am afraid of. I dreamt you returned from the town, and when you took off your cap, I saw that your hair was quite grey. Oxinovo laughed. That's a lucky sign, said he. See if I don't sell out all my goods and bring you some presents from the fair. So he said goodbye to his family and drove away. When he had traveled halfway, he met a merchant whom he knew, and they put up at the same inn for the night. They had some tea together and then went to bed in adjoining rooms. Wishing to travel while it was still cool, Oxinovo roused his driver before dawn. Then he made his way across to the landlord of the inn, who lived in a cottage at the back, paid his bill, and continued his journey. When he had gone about 25 miles, he stopped for the horses to be fed. Oxinovo rested a while in the passage of the inn. Then he stepped out into the porch and, ordering a samovar to be heated, got out his guitar and began to play. Suddenly, a troika drove up with tinkling bells, and an official alighted, followed by two soldiers. He came to Oxinovo and began to question him, asking him who he was and whence he came. Oxinovo answered him fully and said, Won't you have some tea with me? But the official went on cross questioning him and asking him, Where did you spend last night? Were you alone or with a fellow merchant? Did you see the other merchant this morning? Why did you leave the inn before dawn? Oxinovo described all that had happened and then added, Why do you cross question me as if I were a thief? The official said, I am the police officer of the district and I question you because the merchant with whom you spent last night has been found with his throat cut. We must search your things. They entered the house. The soldiers and the police officer unstrapped Oxinovo's luggage and searched it. Suddenly, Suddenly, the officer drew a knife out of a bag, crying, Whose knife is this, and why is there blood on it? Oxinovo became frightened. I don't know. It's not mine. He stammered. This morning the merchant was found in bed with his throat cut, said the officer. You are the only person who could have done it. No one else was there. Here is a blood-stained knife, and your face and manner betray you. Tell me how much money you stole. Oxinovo swore he had not done it, that he had not seen the merchant after they had had tea together, that he had no money except 8,000 rubles of his own. Rubles, the basic monetary unit of Russia, and that the knife was not his, but his voice was broken, his face pale, and he trembled with fear. Trembled, shook. The police officer ordered the soldiers to bind Oxinovo and to put him in the cart. As they tied his feet together and flung him into the cart, Oxinovo prayed to God and wept. His money and goods were taken from him, and he was sent to the nearest town and imprisoned. Inquiries as to his character were made in Vladimir. The merchants and the other inhabitants of that town said that in former days he used to waste his time, but that he was now a good man. Then the trial came up. He was charged with murdering a merchant from Razan and robbing him of 20,000 rubles. His wife was in despair, hopelessness. His children were all quite small. One was a baby. Taking them all with her, she went to the town where her husband was in jail. With difficulty, she obtained permission from the officials and was taken to him. When she saw her husband in chains, shut up with thieves and criminals, she fell down and did not come to her senses for a long time. Then she drew her children to her and sat down near him. She told him of things at home and asked about what had happened to him. He told her all, and she asked, "What can we do now? We must petition the Tsar petition the Tsar not to let an innocent man perish. Petition a formal written request, perish, die." His wife told him that she had sent a petition to the Tsar, but it had been rejected. Oxinovo looked downcast. He did not reply. Then his wife said, "It was not for nothing I dreamt your hair had turned grey. You remember you should not have started that day," and passing her fingers through his hair, she said, "Vanya, dearest, tell your wife the truth. Was it not you who did it?" "So you too suspect me?" said Oxinovo, and hiding his face in his hands, he began to weep. Then a soldier came to say that the wife and children must go away, and Oxinovo said goodbye to his family for the last time. When they were gone, Oxinovo recalled what had been said. He thought, "It seems that only God can know the truth. It is to Him alone we must appeal, and from Him alone expect mercy." And Oxinovo wrote no more petitions, gave up all hope, and prayed to God. Oxinovo was condemned, sentenced to a particular punishment, to be first flogged with knout. Flogged here is uh, beat someone with a stick, or knout is a whip. When the wounds were healed, he was sent to Siberia with other convicts. For 26 years, Oxinovo lived as a convict in Siberia. His hair turned white as snow, and his beard grew long, thin, and grey. His myth disappeared. He stooped, he walked slowly, spoke little, and never laughed, but he often prayed. In prison, Oxinovo learned to make boots and earned a little money. He bore the lives of the saints and read eight when there was enough light in the prison. On Sundays in prison church, he read the lessons and sang in the choir, choir an organized group of singers, for his voice was still good. The prison authorities liked Oxinovo for his meekness, and his fellow prisoners respected him. They called him grandfather and the saint. When they wanted to petition the prison authorities about anything, they always made Oxinovo their spokesman. And when there were disagreement among the prisoners, they came to him to put things right. No news reached Oxinovo from his house, and he did not even know if his wife and children were still alive. One day, a fresh gang of convicts came to the prison. In the evening, the old prisoners collected round the new ones and asked them where they had came from and what they were sentenced for. Oxenovo too sat down near the newcomers and listened sadly to what was said. One of the new convicts, a tall, strong man of 60 with a closely cropped grey beard, was telling the others what he had been arrested for. Well, friends, he said, I borrowed a horse and sledge a vehicle on runners for conveying loads. Sledge that belonged to a friend to get home quickly, and I was arrested and accused of stealing it. But how or where I stole it, they could not say. I did something wrong once and ought to have been sent here long ago, but I was not found out. Now I am here for doing nothing. Ugh! But I am lying. I have been to Siberia before, but not for long. Where are you from? Asked someone. From Vladimir. My name is Makar Siemens. Oxinovo raised his head and said, tell me, Siemens, do you know anything of the merchants Oxinovo of Vladimir? Are they still alive? Of course I do. The Oxinovs are rich. Though their father is in Siberia, a sinner like ourselves, it seems. As for you, Granddad, how did you come here? Oxinovo did not speak of his misfortune. He only sighed and said, for my sins, I have been in prison these 26 years. What sins? Asked Makar Simunch. But Oxinovo only said, well, I must have deserved it. He would have said no more, but his companions told the newcomers how Oxinovo came to be in Siberia, how someone had killed a merchant and had put the knife among Oxinovo's things, and Oxinovo had been unjustly condemned. When Makar Siemens heard this, he looked at Oxinovo, slapped his own knee, and exclaimed, well, this is wonderful, really wonderful. But how old you have grown, Grandad? The others asked him why he was so surprised and where he had seen Oxinovo before, but Maker Simunch did not reply. He only said, it's wonderful that we should meet here, lads. These words made Oxinovo wonder whether this man knew who had killed the merchant, so he said, perhaps Seamunch, you have heard of that affair, or maybe you have seen me before. How could I help hearing? The world's full of rumors. But it's a long time ago, and I have forgotten what I heard. Perhaps you heard who killed the merchant? Asked Oxinovo. Makar Simunch laughed and replied, it must have been him in whose bag the knife was found. How could anyone put a knife into your bag while it was under your head? It would surely have woken you up. When Oxenov heard these words, he felt sure this was the man who had killed the merchant. He rose and went away. All that night, Oxenov lay awake. He felt terribly unhappy, and all sorts of images rose in his mind. There was the image of his wife as she was when he parted from her to go to the fair. He heard her speak and laugh. Then he saw his children, one with a little cloak on, another in his mother's arms. And then he remembered himself as he used to be young and merry. He remembered how he sat playing the guitar in the porch of the inn where he was arrested, and how free from care he had been. He saw in his mind the place where he was flogged, the executioner, the chains, the convicts, all the 26 years of his prison life, and his premature old age. The thought of it all made him so wretched in a very unhappy state that he was ready to kill himself. And it's all that villain's doing, thought Oxenov, and his anger was so great that he longed for retribution. Retribution, punishment. He prayed all night but could get no solace. Solace comfort. During the day he dared not go near Makar Simunch, nor look at him. A fortnight passed. Oxenov was at his wits' end, wits' intelligence. One night, as he was walking about the prison, he noticed some earth that came rolling out from under one of the shelves on which the prisoners slept. And then suddenly Marker Simunch crept out from under the shelf and looked up fearfully at Oxenov. He seized Oxenov's hand and told him that he had dug a hole under the well, getting rid of the earth by putting it into his boots and emptying it out every day on the road. Just you keep quiet, old man, and you shall get out too. If you tell tales, they will flog the life out of me. Flog, beat someone with a whip as a punishment, but I will kill you first. Oxenov quivered with anger, quivered, trembled, or shook. He drew his hand away, saying, I have no wish to escape, and you have no need to kill me. You killed me long ago. As to telling of you, I may do so or not, as God shall direct. Next day, when the convicts were led out to work, the soldiers noticed that some of the prisoners had emptied earth onto the road. The prison was searched and the tunnel found. The governor questioned the prisoners. They all denied any knowledge of the whole. Those who knew would not betray Makar Simunch, knowing he would be flogged almost to death. At last, the governor turned to Oxenuf and said, You are a truthful old man. Tell me before God who dug the hole. Makar Simunch stood impassively, looking at the governor and not so much as glancing at Oxenov. Oxenov's lips and hands trembled, and for a long time he could not utter a word. Utter said or say, he thought, why should I shield him who ruined my life? Let him pay for what I have suffered. But if I tell, they will probably flog the life out of him. And perhaps I suspect him wrongly. And after all, what good would it be to me? Well, old man, repeated the governor, tell me the truth. Who has been digging under the wall? Oxenov glanced at Makar Simunch and said, I cannot say, Your Honor, it is not God's will that I shall tell. Do what you like with me. The governor tried again, but Oxenov would say no more, and so the matter had to be left. That night, someone came quietly and sat down on Oxenov's bed, and he dozed. He peered through the darkness and recognized Makar. Why have you come here? Said Oxenf. Makar Siemens was silent. Go away, or I will summon the guard. Someone called, said Oxenf. Makar Siemens bent close over Oxenf and whispered, Ivan Dmitrich, forgive me. What for? Asked Oxenov. It was I who killed the merchant and hid the knife among your things. I meant to kill you too, but I heard a noise and hid the knife and escaped out of the window. Oxenov did not know what to say. Makar Seminch slid off the bed shelf and knelt upon the ground. Ivan Dmitrich, said he, forgive me. For the love of God, forgive me. I will confess that it was I who killed the merchant, and you will be released and can go to your home. I have suffered for you these 26 years, said Oxenov. My wife is dead. My children have forgotten me. I have no here to go. Makar Siemens beat his head on the floor. Ivan Dmitrich, forgive me, he cried. When they flogged me with the knout, it was not so hard to bear as it is to see you now. Yet you had pity on me and did not tell. For God's sake, forgive me, wretch that I am. And he began to sob. Sob, weep. When Oxenov heard him sobbing, he too began to weep. God will forgive you, said he. Maybe I am 100 times worse than you. And at these words, his heart grew light, and the longing for home left him. He no longer had any desire to leave the prison, but only hoped for his last hour to come. In spite of what Oxenov had said, Makar Siemens confessed his guilt. But when the order for his release came, Oxenov was already dead. Exercises A questions 1. Why did the merchant's wife tell her husband not to start out one day? Answer. The merchant's wife told her husband not to start out one day as she had had a prophetic dream about him returning to town as an old man. 2. Why did the officials question Oxenov? Answer. The officials questioned Oxenov because they suspected him of murdering a merchant from Razan and robbing him of 20,000 rubles. 3. What saddened Oxenov the most? Answer. The fact that saddened Oxenov the most was that even his wife suspected him for a while and wanted him to reveal the truth. 4. How was Oxenov able to manage life as a convict? Answer. Oxenov managed his life as a convict by spending most of his time praying. He became religious and was more gentle and forbearing. He earned some money by making boots. Also, he read the lessons and sang in the choir of the prison church on Sundays. 5. Did Oxenov want revenge? Answer. Oxenov longed for revenge when he deduced that Siemens was the murderer. However, he prayed and overcame his anger when he had a chance to take revenge or vengeance. 6. What made Makar Siemens finally reveal the truth? Answer. The fact that Oxenov did not snitch on Siemens and saved him from being flogged to death made him reveal the truth. 7. Why did Siemens beg for forgiveness? Answer. Siemens begged for forgiveness because Oxenov did not tell the governor that Siemens had been secretly digging a tunnel. Oxenov took pity on him despite knowing that Siemens was the real murderer. This was too much for the murderer to bear, so he begged for forgiveness. B. Reference to context. Read these lines from the story, then answer the questions. 1. Find evidence for the following. A. Oxino was a God-fearing person. B. Oxino had a misspent youth. C. Oxino was just. D. Oxino's wife was superstitious. E. Prisoners were treated harshly. F. Oxino's family prospered. Answer. About informing on Siemens to the police, Oxino decided to do as God shall direct. During inquiries made about Oxino, the merchants and other inhabitants of that town said that in former days he used to waste his time, but that he was now a good man. Whenever there were disputes among the prisoners, they came to Oxino or the saint to sort out the matters. As Oxino was leaving for the fair, his wife said, Ivan Dmitrich, do not start today. I have had a bad dream about you. I do not know what I am afraid of. I dreamt you returned from the town, and when you took off your cap, I saw that your hair was quite grey. After being charged with murder, Oxino was sentenced to be first flogged with a knout, Simeon tells Oxino the Oxinovs are rich, though their father is in Siberia, a sinner like ourselves, it seems. See words and meaning. 1. Choose the best word to use in the blanks. A. Oxino did not like to speak of his misfortune. B. The prison authorities liked Oxino for his meekness. C. Oxino was condemned to be flogged and sent to the mines. D. Inquiries as to his character were made in Lodimar. E. But when the order for his release came, Oxino was already dead. 2. Which of the following words does not relate particularly to Russia? Here are the words A. Za, B. Samoa, C. Troika, D. Bonami, E. Ivan. So, Bonami is not related to Russia. D. Discuss and write. What would you have done in Oxino's place? Use your imagination. Answer. Had I been in Oxino's place, I would probably have comforted him and made him confess in front of the officials. I would also have asked to be released. Thanks for listening. For new videos, don't forget to subscribe my channel. And if you like my videos, please share and like.